Did you know that the top 5 reasons for divorce are communication or lack thereof? When people don't communicate properly, or they stop communicating, or they have really unhealthy communication tactics, then obviously it leads to many problems: isolation, resentment, bitterness. But communication's always been at the top of the list, along with education of children, religion, different morals and values, and of course finances is a big one as well. But one thing that I've noticed between like 15 years ago and today is that religion and children aren't even on the lists anymore. Very, very rarely. If you look at all the lists of reasons for divorce, they aren't even on there because people aren't really religious today. They've stopped going to church. They've stopped praying. They've even stopped having kids in many ways, or they have them much later or much fewer. But the reasons that have replaced religion and children are really big. They are now, if you look at the top of the lists and the top 5 to 10 things on all lists today, what's replaced religion and children are addiction, extramarital affairs, and cheating. That's at most of the list. Number 1, not being happy in a relationship, dissatisfaction, lack of intimacy. All of these things are related. And then, of course, addiction. Religion, when we turn away from God, is it a wonder that we're not going to be satisfied in life or in relationships? Especially when people mistakenly think that their relationships, their marriage, if I could just get married, I'll be happy. If I can just get married, then I won't be sad anymore. I won't be lonely anymore. Surprise! Yes, you will. You are going to be very lonely and very sad many times in marriage. Even Archbishop Fulton Sheen, who wrote the book 3 to Get Married, said that there's going to be the highest of joys that you've experienced in marriage, and there's going to be the lowest of lows. The lowest of lows aren't necessarily bad. They're just reminders that there's no person on this earth who can fill our God-shaped hole in our hearts. But many times we try to fill them with love and sex and fame and popularity and money and jobs and careers and countless hours of doing everything, so we don't even have to think that we're not even happy anymore. But the reality is we've forgotten about the one person who truly makes us happy, and that's Jesus Christ. I grew up in a time where I didn't even know any happy couples. I hardly knew anyone who was happy, and I didn't even want to get married because I couldn't even imagine being so miserable. Everybody I knew was pretty much miserable in marriage. But then I went to a college, Franciscan University, and it was one of the best Catholic colleges in America. And on the family come and see weekends, I saw something that changed my whole worldview. All the parents were so happy. The families were so happy. The dads treated the mothers with such respect, and the mothers treated with the fathers, the husbands, with such respect in return. And I watched them gaze into each other's eyes, had 5, 6 kids, some of them, 8, 10 kids sometimes, and they were still so happy. Many years later, they were still so happy in marriage. And I wondered what the difference was. The difference, the way the world does it, and the difference between the way godly people do it. And I said, And I even heard Scott Hahn say something, that praying together doesn't mean that you're going to stay together, because there are many issues that people have, a lot of baggage, a lot of addictions, a lot of things that people need to work on, that prayer alone is not going to help. We really need to commit to growth in ourselves. But one of the biggest things is that people have walked away from God. And what's increased? Dissatisfaction in relationships, lack of intimacy, lack of faithfulness, extramarital affairs and cheating, addictions. And another big one on the lists today is domestic violence. So all of these things have replaced religion and children. Do you think we're doing it wrong in our society? And of course, I'm probably preaching to the choir here on this channel. But here's the reality, and here's something that even religious people don't realize. Many times we rely on our spouse too much, and we treat them as God. I'm not happy because you're not meeting my needs. I'm not happy because you're not communicating enough. I'm not happy because... name the reasons. We try to say, you're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason. And yes, maybe the other person is not giving enough when they should. And maybe they do need to give a lot more in the relationship. And maybe they need to get outside of themselves and sacrifice more and learn communication skills and things like that. These are necessary, and these things will make you happier. And I've been upset at my wife for not doing these things in the past too. And my love languages are not her love languages, and she doesn't really meet my love languages very well all the time. And we've had many conversations about this. And I said, you know what, I would feel better if this and this and this. And you know what? Change takes time. Growth takes time. She's not just going to be an expert in my love language, and I'm not going to be an expert in hers. That takes time, and we need to work on it. If you truly love a person, you will set to work on it. But in the meantime, you can often feel lonely. You can often feel set apart. You can often feel like you're just not being loved. And the devil will creep into your mind and say things like, oh, why did you marry this person? They don't even love you. They're not giving you what you deserve. You give to them so much more than they give you. And of course, he's putting the same thoughts in their minds. And you're both thinking that you give so much more and they don't give anything. And it leads to bitterness. It leads to anger. It leads to resentment. It leads to putting a wedge between you and them. And these are some of the things that lead toward divorce, or at least dissatisfaction in marriage, which is why effective communication is always, or oftentimes used to be, the number one thing on every list. Effective communication. If you don't have it, learn it. Pick up some books. Go to counseling. It's absolutely necessary. I have a whole shelf of books on the other side of the room that you can't see with love and relationships, self-help, and many other things like that, because I've had to learn effective communication because I didn't learn it in my family. That's for sure. And my wife has told me sometimes, you're leaning too much on me. You're trying to, make me the source of your happiness. And I'm like, well, you're not giving me my love language. It's not that hard. I only have 2 love languages that really are my primary ones. You just have to meet them. And I've realized that she either wasn't going to, or that she was going to take a lot of time to, because it's not her first language. And so, you know what? I had to do the most important thing in life, and that was lean on God more. You know what? She's not the source of my happiness. And there was a time when I didn't have her, and I was completely happy because I had God, and I leaned on God 100%. And so I realized that in my relationship, anytime I don't feel happy or satisfied, I need to lean on God more. I need to find love in Him more. Should she be loving me? Yeah. Should I be loving her more? Yeah. In her love language? Absolutely. But we need to lead on God first. God is the one who's the source of all our happiness, the fulfillment of all of our desires, the joy, the peace, the love. We're not going to be married in heaven. If you need to be married to be happy, you're going to be miserable in heaven, because you're missing the point of marriage. You're missing the point of literally everything in life, and that God is the source of our happiness. So I have found personally that when I lean more on God and say, God, I need your love. I don't feel loved. I don't feel fulfilled. I need you. And I spend more time in prayer. I try to take more silent time. I try to give Him more time and receive more from Him. And shouldn't we be doing that in marriage anyways? Far too many times we get too busy, which is half the problem. And then we don't love our spouses well because we're spending too many times doing other things and we're not cultivating that intimate relationship. We do the same thing with God, but I can guarantee you, if you cultivate an intimate relationship with God, you will more effectively love your spouse, and you will feel more effectively loved in life. You won't be so needy to be so dependent on everybody else and everything. You won't be so needy to go to these addictions, to go scroll social media for hours, to get into all of these unhealthy habits which destroy marriages. So if you don't have that deep prayer life, you need to find that somehow. And that might even mean going to our channel and learning how to pray. That might be finding times throughout the day. Even if you have kids, you have to find times. Wake up a half an hour before the first kid. Just take that silent time with God. Maybe it's washing the dishes and you're just by yourself while all the kids are praying. Take that time with God. You have to be creative. Maybe it's in the shower when you get 3 minutes alone to yourself, if you even get that sometimes. You need to take that time with God, and you need to pour out your heart to God. You need to give Him your heart, and you need to ask for His heart in return. That's the only thing that's going to make us happy in life. If you give your heart to your spouse, you've given it to the wrong person, because there's only one heart that we have, and it's for God alone. He is our eternal love. He's the one we're going to love for eternity. Our spouses are temporary. Our kids are temporary. Our circumstances are temporary. Our relationships are temporary. God is the eternal being, bright light of divine love, who can fill us and sustain us and make our marriages whole. So many times in society, we get too busy. We get far too preoccupied with all these other things, and they destroy our marriages. Social media, Netflix, false intimate relationships, cell phones, working too many hours in our career and justifying the fact that we have to work so much. All of these things destroy marriages. So if you want a good and healthy marriage, well, I actually have some book recommendations for you, which can help you take off on what I've said. And I've made a whole video on the best books for love and relationships on our Catholic Truth main channel. But Lifelong, For Better Forever by Greg Popchak. He's a Catholic psychiatrist. I would recommend reading this with your spouse. Read a few pages every night, or even every other night, and go through it together. Read it. Work on it. The 5 love languages. Each of our spouse has a love language. If people read this and put it into practice, most people wouldn't get divorced. Most people could solve the problems of their issues. I mean, my parents literally have missed each other for 50 years because they have different love languages. And I don't think either of them have felt satisfied because they don't know how to love each other the way the other one needs to be loved. We usually love ourselves the way we want to be loved. That's usually a problem. Also, understanding the other person, the temperament God gave your spouse, understanding why they are, who they are, why they act the way they do. I mean, just why they like that. There's also the temperament that God gave you, the temperament God gave your child, and so many other books. And maybe you're the issue. Maybe you're not happy. Happiness is an inside job. And so this is by Father John Powell, who's a Catholic priest, and although he's a Jesuit, he does have a lot of good insights in his books here. So I highly recommend this book, and not only other. I mean, he has one called The Secret of Staying in Love. The Secret of Staying in Love. So read that every day together. All of these books can help you to stay married, to have a happy marriage. And even if your spouse won't work on it, you do. Because you can't change other people, but you can change yourself. And the more you change yourself, the more you work on yourself, the more you're going to be a bright light and change other people as well. So I hope that these have been some helpful tips for you and for your marriage. Definitely, please get help, read together, study together, go to counseling together. Remember these times for love. You fell in love for a reason. Cultivate that love. Most love fades away because people don't cultivate the love. They get too busy with kids. They don't take time for date nights. They don't take time for themselves. Even one date night a week, even just an hour would be better than nothing and not spending any time together. So these are just a few recommendations. We have so many more videos on this channel with advice, good, bad, ugly, how to get through it, all of that. Julie Loyne comes and helps us out a lot. She's a mother of 4 and she gives excellent advice. So check out those other videos on our channel. Also check out our love and relationships book list, the full list on our channel. If it's not on this channel yet, it will be. It's on our Catholic Truth channel for sure. Anyways, thanks for watching. And of course, if you have any questions, we are here for you. Please put your questions in the comments below or just click the link below in the description section and you will come to our questions page where you can email us your questions. Lastly, if you would like a retreat leader, a speaker, or anything else, check out our website below, Catholic Truth. Please check out our show notes below. If you would like daily inspiration, please check out our Facebook and our Pinterest and our TikTok, Instagram, and all of our social media platforms below. If you would like to support our channel, please see our PayPal and our Patreon below. God bless you.